Welcome to the November meeting of the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. I ask you to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start the meeting with the approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval.
And I will second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2 is public comment on matters not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to matters not on the agenda? Seeing none at this time, we'll move on to item 3, which was the approval of the October 17th, 2019 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I do have
Counsel.
a correction in item 5, which I drafted. The word arbitration should be stricken and the word mediation inserted in its place.
Okay, so noted. Any other comments or changes? Seeing none, or hearing none, I would move that approval of the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
It's been a first and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4, report out of closed session.
The board did meet in closed session to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, which is identified on the closed session agenda, and no action was taken.
Thank you. Item 5, review of monthly and year-to-date revenue and expenses. Jen.
Good morning, members of the board. I'll be reporting out on the revenue and expenses for the month of September 2019. In Fund 870, the beginning balance was approximately $5.9 million. There was no revenue, and expenses were $35,000, making the ending cash position for 870 to be $5.8 million. For the starting balance of Fund 871, it was approximately $197,000. Revenue was $2 million from the North Area Construction Retention Closeout. Expenses were $2.1 million, making the ending position for Fund 871 to be $122,000. Looking at the year-to-date position, the combined cash position for all three funds is approximately $12 million. As of November 14th, the agency's combined cash position is approximately $10.3 million. Staff is coordinating with DWR on the timing and amount of advanced funding for the first half of 2020. Staff expects to draw down for the remaining $6 million in Fund 257 by the end of the calendar year. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to our consent items. We have 2 consent items on the agenda today. And any comments on them? Otherwise, I would make a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded on the consent items. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 8, consideration of a resolution of the West Sacramento Flood Control authorizing execution and delivery of a 3rd supplemental fiscal agent agreement. Roberta.
Hi, good morning. I'm here to introduce this item. There is a resolution in front of you to be considered, but first a little bit of a background. At the September meeting, we briefed you on the potential to refund our 2011 outstanding bonds for annual cash flow savings. At that time, we received verbal authorization to move forward. At the October meeting, the board received a presentation from WSAFCA's municipal advisor, Ken Deeker, to include additional information about the process, walk through and show you a little bit more about the potential savings. At that time, the board adopted a resolution approving the engagement of various professionals on the financing team. The team has been working hard to develop an official statement. We also had 2 presentations to 2 rating agencies over the past week, S&P and Fitch. We're awaiting results of those presentations, and those will provide credit ratings for the bond refunding and ultimately will impact the amount of interest and the amount of anticipated savings that the agency will see. But Wasafka has outstanding credit ratings on the previous bonds, so we expect similar ratings from the recent presentations, and we'll update you as soon as we have their responses. So today, the board's being asked to consider several required documents to move forward with the refunding. We've got Ken Deeker back today with a little presentation, and so he's going to walk you through the various documents, what they are, why they're needed, as well as update you on the potential savings given current market conditions. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ken to provide you more information.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ken Deeker with Del Rio Advisors. Briefly, I just wanted to update the board, just as a little bit of history. Is this on? Let me hit the wrong button here. There we go. In June 2011, the Wasafka issued approximately $13.4 million, what we call the 2011 bonds. The proceeds were used to finance various capital improvements related to levee improvements and flood control. The 2011 bonds are callable on September 1, 21 at par. Interest rates on those bonds range from 5 to 5.25%. Now, this is something I wanted to remind the board. Advance refundings are the ability to call bonds in advance of their call date of a period of more than 90 days before. A current refunding is one where you can call the bonds within 90 days of their call date. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 eliminated tax-exempt advance refunding. So if we wanted to do a refunding of these bonds, we would have to wait until June 1st of 2021 or 90 days prior to the September 1, 21 call date. However, the plan before you today shows a taxable advance refunding, so we can issue bonds on a taxable basis not restricted by the limitations of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So under market conditions, when we drafted the staff report, about $13.4 million outstanding, planning to issue about $11.4 million currently outstanding. Estimated refunding amounts $11.7 million. Final term of the bonds is not changing. Total savings are about $2.57 million, or about $118,000 a year. Net present value savings of about $886,000, or 7.78%. One thing I do want to note to the board, back when we started this process in November, when we ran these numbers, the 10-year Treasury was about 1.92%. It has now since rallied back to about 1.71% yesterday. So between the time we started the process, the 10-year Treasury is at 1.5%, gone up to 1.9%, back down to 1.7%. A lot of it's being driven by economic factors, domestic issues such as the impeachment inquiry and tweets, and just a whole bunch of factors that are driving this. So we're continuing to monitor it. What we have done is set a minimum net present value target in the documents of 3% net present value savings. I generally recommend savings of 5% or greater are significant, but Ms. Raper and myself and Mr. Fabian and so on will monitor very closely as we move into the market. The next page. This is the annual savings schedule. You can see that the term of the bonds remains the same. Average annual savings is about $118,000 per year. As part of the action today, under what's called Senate Bill number 1029, every public agency prior to the issuance of bonds must adopt a debt policy. And Wasafka does not currently have one in place. So part of the action that we're asking the board to take today is to adopt and approve a debt policy. This will include everything for the purposes for which debt may be used, the types of debt that may be issued. Of course, Wasafka has somewhat limited ability to issue bonds. The relationship of debt and integration with the local agency's CIP program, policy goals, and the internal control procedures related to the issuance of bonds. So with that today, our financing schedule, which hasn't really changed, we've been working diligently to try to keep this on schedule and get these bonds to market as soon as possible. We did have, as Ms. Raper said, we did have the rating agency presentations late last week and earlier this week. We expect those ratings hopefully by the end of this week or early next week. And we do not expect there to really be, right now Fitch rates these bonds AAA, they can't go any higher. So we're hoping to maintain that rating and be in the AA category with S&P, which is consistent with where the prior bonds were rated. We are expecting to do a due diligence call and print and post the preliminary official statement, which is one of the documents before you today. We're expecting to hopefully price the bonds Tuesday, December 10th, Wednesday, December 11th in that time frame. We're pushing hard to get that done because that's really the last week of the year in which bonds are sold. The last couple weeks of the year, a lot of the traders and buyers head on their holiday vacation. So we're trying to squeeze this in. And again, trying to keep folks from having to work over the holidays. We're planning to close this in that first or second week of January. So just as a summary and recommendation, currently market conditions are very much in favor of moving forward. At your last meeting, you did approve the financing team as shown here, myself as Del Rio Advisors, Bond Counsel Chronic Moscovitz, Disclosure Counsel Jones Hall, and underwriter Piper Jaffray. We do have Dennis McGuire from Piper Jaffray in the audience and Konstantin Baronoff, should you have any questions on the legal documents. Anyway, I believe staff recommends moving forward on this and approving the resolution, which not only approves the debt policy, but moves forward in approval of the documents and sale of the bonds. And we will continue to monitor the market conditions as the market kind of moves all over the place. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Go ahead.
No questions. I just, my comment, though, is it's wonderful. I don't want to oversay this. It's great that we have the opportunity to put the debt policy in place, because I think that, as you mentioned, that we need that. So this action actually gives us an opportunity to take care of that, but also move forward in this way. So I'm supportive of the action.
Okay. I don't have any question, just kind of a process one. Approving this resolution as presented does cover all the debt policy and all of the different factors, right?
Yes, your
Okay.
approval of the resolution today approves all of the different documents that are listed, the third fiscal agreement, the preliminary official statement, the debt policy, and allows us to move forward as long as we continue to see net present value savings above 3%. If they go below that, we would not move forward. We might wait and come back if the market changes. And so, yes, with that, we can move forward as long as we meet those requirements.
I like that idea. I mean, yes, no one, people try to predict the future, and they're usually wrong. But there's an opportunity in 2021 too. But if you can get it now, makes sense. So with that, I would make a motion to approve Resolution 1911-01.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
No one else? So motion carries. Thank you. Now I lost my place. Here we go.
This one, yeah, program update.
Here we go. Item 9 was Safeco project updates.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. A couple of updates from myself and members of our staff. First and foremost, the River Park Borough supplemental EIR, the public comment period has concluded, and it's our anticipation that we would go out to bid for that restoration project to be completed for the next construction season. I'm going to have Brian Brown come to the podium and talk to you about the Southport Levee drainage improvement project that's been going on.
Hello, Board. Give you a small update on the Southport Drainage Improvement Project. We found flooding near the Yacht Harbor and Sherwood access corridors last year. So the contractor is out there constructing swales, which have been completed, and they've graded asphalt to meet the swales. And they're going to drainage inlets and pipes that are going out to the local drainage ditches. And those are currently complete. There's some minor cleanup the contractor needs to do. And he's starting in the Linden Road area by the maintenance corridor that was flooding an adjacent property. They're constructing a drainage inlet and culvert there to pipe it into the existing drainage canal on the roadside, and they're constructing a swale in the maintenance corridor, which they're going to start on the next week. The contractor, TNS Construction, was the lowest responsive bidder, and they've been doing a good job thus far, and we hope these improvements will reduce flooding and hopefully eliminate it in the smaller events next year. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, before we move on to the next one, just for the record, the resolution that you just adopted was 1911-02, and I think you said 1901, so I just wanted to make sure that we get that corrected for the record.
I think I had the, you're probably right, I had the wrong resolution up, huh? that was for lobbying services. My apologies. So let me clarify that and say I would move to approve Resolution 19-11-02
And and the recommended actions.
and the recommended actions.
That takes care of it. Okay. Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, replacement.
That's why I asked that question in the first place, because I didn't see it in the resolution here. Okay, so that's, all right, thank you for clarifying that. Paul?
Sure. So a few more things. We are preparing for the Board of Senior Consultants Safety Assurance Review. That'll happen in the second week in December. On the federal project, work continues to be done. We continue to work with our partners at the Army Corps of Engineers, addressing the worst-case scenario that we know of in our system. Over at the Yolo Bypass East Levee project, BCI, our geotechnical engineer, has completed some borings, which will help to fill in information for our 35% design set. The other subcontractor, SOMAS, has done their surveying, and CBEC is completing their bathymetric surveys over there. It's still our hope to see 35% complete by the end of the calendar year. It'll be further informed with some of the results from the work that we're doing right now after the first of the year. Staying on the federal level, as you may already know, the House was able to pass a continuing resolution last week. Still waiting on what's going to happen in the Senate. I haven't heard anything recently. Greg is presently back advocating with the mayor in Washington, D.C. They're attending meetings with OMB, the ASA's office, with the chief deputy of the South Pacific Division Regional Integration Team, Senator Feinstein's office, and perhaps even District Representative Doris Matsui's office. That wasn't scheduled by the time I last spoke with Greg, but that's the hope. Our message continues to be the same, full funding for our planning and engineering design funds, make up the balance of what we already received last year, as well as what shows up in the president's budget, as well as an ask for construction funding. Jen, would you put up the PowerPoint? A little bit easier up here.
Okay.
Things have been progressing out the Southport for the restoration project. We have a full operational irrigation system I'm going to talk a little bit further about. It's been tested. The plant locations were all staked once the irrigation system was tested, and plants were installed shortly thereafter. So there was a lot of effort going on in the last couple of weeks out there. Our ongoing issue is to watch and monitor river stage, because right now we're relying on our pumps to water the plants. There still does not appear to be any precipitation in the forecast. So this is kind of where I left you at the end of the last meeting. We had the main line of the irrigation installed. So this is one of the larger pumps. This has already been installed in Southport. This is an example of what the fish screen actually looks like. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but essentially what happens is as the pump sucks in the water, it spins, and then there's little brushes at the top you can see to make sure that the fish don't get caught up in the irrigation system. And that's what it looks like when it's installed right at the river's edge. And here you can see where the sand medium is to make sure that the irrigation lines stay clear. And you can see on the right-hand side of the photo, there's the main line and how we are irrigating all the way to the low flow channel and the furthest inlet outlet of the project. And this is like one of my favorite pictures because it kind of looks like dentil molding, but you can actually see, how well the irrigation system is doing, how much water it's actually spreading, make sure the plants are getting sufficient water so that they can get established before they go dormant or before they get flooded, because we still are anticipating that river levels will rise and that it will cover most of that area. And like I said, there was a number of people out there installing plants. Just a couple of photos for you to see how it's going. And so again, like I said, our efforts right now are to continue to monitor river levels. This is especially important because as they rise, we may have to adjust for pumps, especially if there is no precipitation anticipated. So it's one of our main focus right now as a team to make sure that the plants get sufficient water and able to establish this season. We will have to secure another permission from the Central Valley Flood Protection Board to continue working in the floodplain and continue to operate the irrigation system. Thus far, they've been very helpful. We've already received 2 time variance requests, so we don't anticipate that as being a problem. And then the other thing that's going on presently, and it will be going on between now and probably the first full week in December, would be the rock slope protection of the cultural site that we had encountered earlier after the wind wave action this last year. So that's going on presently. We've alerted the tribe, and so they know that they can bring a monitor out on site. And that's where we are today.
Okay.
Any questions?
How long will the irrigation be necessary? I know it depends on precipitation, but is that something that could carry into next year, or?
I suppose it's possible. Last week, I guess I got a 60-day forecast. I saw a little bit of precipitation happening in mid-December. But we've not seen the storms building up or anything, at least for Northern California. Southern California is starting to get some precipitation. So it's adaptive management at this point.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anything else, or?
That's it. That concludes my report.
Okay, very good. Next item, director's comments. My only one is everyone have a great Thanksgiving, and meeting is adjourned.